Here we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for being in the chat today. See if I see any regulars in the chat. Uh see Amber in the chat. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. All right, guys, let's get into this intro. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. So about to get into this intro. A little anxious, but always have those little butterflies. But here we go. Three, two. There are many heroes in the world of animation: Mel Blanc, Frank Welker, Bill Scott, and my guest today. Since the early 80s, his impeccable range and brute force honesty has led to a timeless career filled with innovation and a charm that has entertained generations of audiences. Listed as the top 13 all time voiceover artist by Animation Magazine, you've come to love him as Starscream in the Bayverse Transformers films, Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe, Resolute and Renegades, Ickis and Real Monsters, Buster Bunny and Tiny Toon Adventures, Cow, Chicken, and Red Guy and Cow and Chicken, MODOK and various animated Marvel animated material and games, Bev and Ed Bighead, George and Grandpa Wolf, and Mr. DuPont and Rocco's Modern Life, Chance Furlong and SWAT Cats, Felix the Cat in The Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat, Doctor Doom and Super Scroll and Superhero Squad, and has voice directed cultural landmarks in animation such as The Rugrats, The Wild Thornberries, and All Grown Up. From the wickedly sinister to the utterly hilarious, he's created universes and has even chosen to raise the next generation of talent the right way. Welcome to Jantmore Interviews, and I'm your host, Josh, aka Jantmore. Please help me give a warm, rounding round of applause to Emmy Award-winning voice director and acting extraordinaire, Charlie Adler. Hi.
Well, that was some intro, Josh. Thank you. I'm kind of stuck on the brute force honesty. What? I guess that probably is true. You mean
No.
my reputation precedes me? Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. It's such an honor to speak to you today. I have to be honest with you. During COVID, there was a period where I would literally just watch your interviews. Like I would
Oh,
nonstop. I would wake up, go to sleep, watch your interviews. And this was even before I started to deciding to interview people. I was always attracted to your personality. And I have to say, watching your interviews, I love how animated you are, how honest, how loving, how charming you are. And
thank
I gotta
you.
say this as well. One of my favorite things in doing my research for you was, you've done so much stuff, you have such a lengthy resume, but my favorite thing to see attributed to you is all the love the voice acting industry has for you. I know that you went through a very almost near death experience
Mm.
a while back, and it was just so emotional. I'm not like, just as a fan, I'm so emotional just seeing everyone be
Oh,
like, the world is better with you in it. I love you,
oh,
Charlie. You mean so
oh.
much to me. Like, and just to go to comment sections and see fans love you so much. It's an honor, and thank you so much for giving me the honor and the esteemed privilege to discuss and dissect your incredible resume and career today. And I hope to make a great show for you. So
Oh,
thank you
thank
so
you so
much.
much. Thank you, Josh. It's so sweet. You know, not for nothing. Um, it having near death and all the shit that I went through, which I'll spare the details of. Um, I really thought that I was done. I mean, I thought that if I survive, which was over several months, well, probably my life was going to look very different. So I was very preparing myself. And when you're in a hospital bed, it just feels like, well, standing up is a chore. Um, what I considered was, well, I'm not going to work, and what will my life look like? And I didn't like the way at the moment that it looked like, but I also thought I have other things that I have to, I can't define myself as my career. I'll just have to shop elsewhere. And I didn't, there were no answers. I didn't have any, ideas of what that would look like. But weirdly, when I was having one particular day that just felt so fucking brutal, and I had my phone and my iPad, and I really didn't check very much because I was very disconnected from the world on purpose. I didn't want to. I'm not a very good patient, and I wasn't interested in friends and family. You know, the daily explanation. So I kind of disconnected. And but I was looking at my email, and there was one email from some producers on a show that I had directed a year before, and it said, "We're so thrilled. We just got a pickup, and we really hope that you'll consider coming back and working with us." And I just stared at that, and I thought, "Are they kidding?" And so I wrote a note. Oh, and they said, "We're going to be in LA for dinner. We'd love to take you out." And I next month, and I wrote a note back, and I said, "Well, this is what's going on, guys, and it's not likely that I'm going to be." And the only response that I got was, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. You're going to be fine. You got months. We'll see you in a few months." And I'll tell you, that sure lifted me. You know, that like that movie, Hope Floats. I love that idea. Hope really does float. And you know, some people are lucky enough to get little breadcrumbs like that. Some people are lucky enough to get a buffet. Some people don't get anything, and it has to come from inside. I'm not sure what I've done right in my life that was given to me that particular day, but I got to tell you, man, yeehaw! And then when I see and get what you described as fan love, and I have a problem with the word fan. I always have. I don't like it. It feels like an assignation of um, I'm doing this because it's my fans. I don't know what to call
Mm.
people. Honestly, when I'm at a convention, I think of them as I don't know my guests. I don't know, but I don't like the word fan. It's an
Mhm.
old-fashioned sort of. It's dehumanizing. And I feel like it objectifies strangers who are people who are strangers to me. Um, but those people who have paid attention and have been moved by or inspired by or in any way touched by the body of my work, that thrills me, whatever we can call them or not call them. So I was very unaware of that for decades. Believe me, I just went from job to job. I didn't have a clue. I was too busy working. And since, you know, also keep in mind, Josh, like 40 years ago, there wasn't the internet. There weren't conventions. I just would do a show. It would become something unaware, completely unaware to me. I've never watched anything that I've done, and I moved on. So it was like I did that next, 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 next. Lucky enough for me, I had next, 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 next. But it
Absolutely.
wasn't until recently that I had this idea that my work mattered to people as much as it mattered to me, but from a different perspective. So that was a fucking thrill and a wake up call.
I
So,
mean, so much so much of your roles literally, I mean, you hear this all the time probably. So I'm not saying anything new,
well, but
but
let's do this. Let's assume I haven't heard anything, and you just talk to me from your heart, and don't worry about if I've heard it or not heard it. I'm hearing it from you, so for me, it's the first time. How's that?
yeah, let's do that. Let's do
Okay.
it. I love that. Okay. But so many of your roles, I would literally wake up in the morning and catch every day. You know, Superhero Squad, which I want to talk about a little bit with you as we go on, is probably one of the most like childhood defining moments of my life. I love that
A
show.
weird ass show.
It's so weird, but I love that. Like that show has an that and Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, which I want to talk to you about because I know you did voice direction for that. Those shows like really inform my humor and have really made me who I am. You know, like I just love those shows, and I love one of my favorite things about you is how larger than life some of your characters feel a lot of the times. You know, like Doctor Doom is so like out there and large and big and it's so animated, and I love that about your career. I love these animated characters you bring to life so expertly. I mean, there's, you know, Junkman and Jimmy Neutron is one role that came to mind when I was researching. I was like, oh my god, there's no way. But then I heard it and I was like, no, that's definitely Charlie Adler. That's definitely him. And it's just stuff like that is so much fun to like research and see how much of a staple you've been for my childhood. Same with researching Steve Bloom or Fred Tatasciore or Rob Paulson. I've been just been blessed to speak to so many of you guys and to just see how important you guys are to not only my life but just to me as a creative. You know, you guys inspire me to be a better artist and a better, just I don't know, just I just love expressing myself, and this is just another way of doing that. So you guys really, to be
Thank
able to
you.
speak to you again is like, again, just such a blessing. I'm so happy to have you
Thank
on
you.
here, man.
Thank you. Happy
Seriously.
to be here.
Thank you. Well, first, before we get into your lengthy career and who you are as a human, I want to talk about your booth. I've always wanted to ask you about the red curtains and all that. So, how did you
Well,
make your booth?
this is a cheesy fucking answer, but it's the truth. So this the room that I'm in. Just so you know, I am sitting about 12 to 13 feet away from you. I have a 72-inch TV screen on my wall.
Holy
So when I'm
crap!
directing sessions, it's like I'm in the room. I'm not looking at a small computer screen. So my camera is, I'm going to touch the camera. It's right there. And it's attached to a desk that goes up and down. And when I was putting this room together, I knew, I'll show you behind me. See, here's one of the paintings that I had done, but there's a mirror there. And there's all this stuff behind me. And all I did was I just had to go get curtains that uh, soften the bounce back. These, I was in IKEA and I was looking for some curtains, and there was black and white and red. And because I hate shopping, and I mean hate shopping,
I get you.
hate it. I'm walking down an aisle and I see, oh, Velvo, I know the measurements. Great, great, great. I think I'll get that. Black, I felt like it was a fucking funeral. White, I thought with the dust and the dogs and all the shit, they're always gonna be dirty. So the other color was red. That's the simple answer. There's nothing about it other than, oh, it wasn't black and it wasn't white, I'll get red. It wasn't white, they were bone or tan or whatever. The end. That was my choice. That's why I have it. Nothing bigger than that. They were on sale, I think 19.99 a panel, and I got them.
That's hey man, I don't. You're way ahead of me. I'm still looking for material to make my booth. You know, there's I was
And it worked, by the way, it works great. I've never had a problem technically. This room that I'm in was a guest apartment, but it was formerly a garage in my house. So I had this was for my sister when she stayed here with my mother. My mother would be upstairs, my sister would be down here. But this has no outer walls, and so it was built with in a garage, but it was formed within the garage. So it for no other reason except that's how the contractor did it, and so it was just soundproof by nature. It could not be more perfect. I have one set of doors. I close them the end.
man.
There you go.
I'm such a huge nerd for this stuff, man. I love the, the equipment side of this.
Not me. Hate it. Hate it.
We, we were just talking about that, but do you? I assume you do, but do you know Corey Burton, right?
Sure.
Okay. So he also wanted me to tell you that he loves you so much.
I
A
love
funny
him. I've
story.
known him for, I mean, good God, we're all so old. I mean, for real, for real. My friendships
Yeah.
go back. First of all, I'm still friends with kids I went to school with. So my dearest friends I've known since I was 6, 7, 9, 11. These are all the people that are still in my life, and so we laugh about how old we all are. And do you know that I just got, this is how old I am. I just got, and I'm very flattered by this, inducted into the Emmy
Yes,
Gold
the
Circle. But the reason I'm saying this
yes.
is because it represents 50 years of being in television. Well, I've been in television for 53 years, and I've been in the theater for 53 years. And so I still have friends going back all the way. So Corey, going back to Corey, I think Corey was one of the first people I knew when I got here on the Mayflower and in 16, 15, 1612. 1621, whenever the fuck the Mayflower landed. 1620. Jeez, my mother would have killed mom. Sorry, ma. She was a teacher. 1620. I know. 1620. 1620, the Mayflower landed. There we go.
Well, that's yeah, it's a funny story about Corey. I remember I was because I always bug him about voice acting. He was like recommended me voice acting classes, and you were the first guy he ever recommended
Oh,
me
that's
to.
sweet. Thank
And
you.
it was so funny to I don't know, it's just when you notice those full circle moments in your life, it's just so like holy crap, it takes you for a loop,
Well,
it's
when
so
you once you
cool.
get to a certain point in your life, the circle, which is full, gets about this big. And so I realized that we all know each other. That, it used to be 6 degrees of separation. Now it's down to maybe one if you don't already know the person. So I have friends of mine who there's one of them plays this game, how many degrees of separation from so and so. So a name he'll mention, oh, I directed him. Oh, I worked with him. Oh, I know his, it's just because once you're, and it only has to do with access. With, once you're sort of in this pipeline, my world has become very, very big and populated. And there's no way to avoid knowing somebody as much as I'd like to sometimes. Well, there's that.
Right, we all have those type scenarios in our life as well. But the reason I was mentioning Corey is because he's so big into
Oh,
microphones,
he's
and
wonderful.
yeah, and
He's
he's the
wonderful.
reason I got this microphone, and he just breaks it all down and why each microphone matters and how it carries the sound
That
and
right now, that conversation makes my rectum slam. I have zero, and I mean zero interest in what the fuck microphone. Somebody said to me on a job, "What mic do you have?" I go, "I don't know." They said, "Well, what does it say?" I said, "On, off." I don't know. I don't know. I don't give a shit. I don't know. Does it work? Yeah, I guess so. That's why I have brilliant engineers who tell me what to do. And who work with me, who I screen share, and then they get into it, and then they fix it all up. But I don't want to know. It doesn't interest me. I'm not a technician. I'm an artiste. I really have no interest in technical stuff at all. I only access it because it's a requirement, but I have no curiosity about it at all. I still am trying to figure out the bagel setting on my toaster versus the toast setting. So that's as far as I've gotten technologically, and that's as far as I want to go. So change the fucking subject, Josh.
I got you. Well, now let's get into that, man. Another thing that really drew me to you as a person is we're both from the eastern side of the US. You're from New Jersey, I'm from Queens. So it's so that's really what drew me to you. And what's so interesting that I find about people who come from that area is our work ethic and how we approach our work. So my
Mm.
first question to you is just to get a little deeper into the artists we all know and love today is how would you say the culture of your environment has helped cultivate your work ethic if it did at all?
Um, I had two parents who had amazing work ethics. The only thing that I could say nice about my father was he had a great work ethic. Everything else, I couldn't say a goddamn thing other than he had a wonderful work ethic. My mother had the same, and they never got sick. And if they were, they were worked through it. Part one. Part two is, I think, this is specific to me. I think because I discovered the theater at about 13, I adopted the work ethic of doing 8 shows a week and what was required of me physically and mentally. And I likened it to being in the army. What I ate, how much I ate, my energy, the preservation of energy, the preservation of self, in order to do the work that I did. So my work ethic came from my parents, definitely, and it came from definitely the theater. But I also think uh, not having not growing up with any real privilege except being white and having access, which were, you think about that is, white privilege in this country is revolting to me, but it's I was lucky enough for that. But what I didn't have was money. What I didn't have was things. And what I had to do was earn my way to get those things. But I had access. And a lot of people don't and didn't and continue not to. As you might be able to tell, I'm a little political. So I get very
which I love.
enraged at the access that people take for granted. And they're from the high mountains that they speak from, as if they have any experience having nothing. And that orange turd in the White House, who was handed everything, and by the way, bankrupted every fucking thing he ever gotten. You know,
But
you
let's put him in the White House and let's look at what he's doing with these tariffs.
vile
Let's get rid of DEI. Let's get it's like it's just you know
things that took us 50 years, 80 years, 100 years to fight for. He
yeah.
has turned the clock back, and everybody around him. And but there is a higher methodology to that. And if I go down this rabbit hole, I'll never get out. So I'll just say this: there is an intentional destruction going on, an attempt to destroy and to make this country something that would only serve he and his rich fucking psychotic, what's his name,
Elon.
Elon, Elon the twunt. Anyway, we'll have to just move on. I'll have to move on. I got to get off this because my stomach acid's rising.
I'm the same way, man. It's just whenever I look at the news, I'm just like, again, something. Oh my
But we can't
god.
just look at it and not do anything. We have to stay active. We have to participate. We cannot pull
Absolutely.
away. As much as I want to, we cannot because that's how they win. So activism is everything. Showing up is everything. Being informed is everything. I just don't want to waste this interview by talking about toilet paper and that which the smears on it.
Completely understandable, my friend. Well, man, that's such an interesting thing to hear about how your phenomenal work ethic was crafted. And what is so interesting about you is there's so many directions your life could have went in. Of course, I've heard in various interviews you've talked about wanting to be a veterinarian, and of course, you originally thinking about being an artist, which of course you are with your lovely paintings. I saw the recent one you did, the self portrait with all the other characters coming out. I still got to buy that hoodie.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I love that.
That's silly stuff. But I'm going to pull up on my phone something.
Oh,
You
I'm
see, since
excited.
since we're here, I mean, oh come on, Adler.
I
You see,
love art. One of my favorite things to do when I go to New York is go to all the art museums with my friends and just like see what people come
I
up
had
with.
art teachers. This is one of my paintings. I had art teachers that I'm still close to.
What?
When I went to this is a painting I did, and Eartha Kitt had a print of it. Oh come on, Charlie. Uh, so anyway, I love this one. I
You're
gave it.
insane.
Well,
What?
I know I'm insane. Um, wait a minute, hold on. I can't show you all of them because it'll take all day. But my point is
Yes.
that hold on, it'll come to you, Charlie. My point being that uh, about the art, the painting. I was inspired. I'll stop at the showing my shit. I was so inspired. I had an art teacher, and I'll mention her, Connie Fraser. We were in junior high school in sixth grade. We were her first class when she graduated college as a teacher. So when we met, I was 11 and she was 22 or 23. So when you think about it, there's only 12 years between us. Well, I'm going to be 69, and I'm quite sure that she's either 80 or 81 or very close to that, somewhere in that. We are still in touch. I still see her. We still talk. She and her teaching partner Julio Tubal uh, and Shirley Maskell. I had all these people around me. You know, teachers. And my mother was a teacher, but not for nothing. My entire life, I have been lifted by people who said, "Look over there." No, no, no. Look over there. Get over here, you little asshole. Look over there. I had people literally physically grab me by the collar and say, "Shut the fuck up. Look there. No, 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 no." Or hug me, love me to death. So everything that I think that every move I've made in my life has been very much informed by passionate teachers who who changed my life, changed the course of my life. Because you're right. You said earlier I could have gone different directions. I could have gone different directions. And you're mentioning the good ones. I could have gone down a lot of terrible directions and came close to many and dabbled in many. So I ain't no saint, but
None of us are.
none of us are. Well, but how dull would that be? But
I think
I
one of my favorite quotes. I'm sorry to interrupt
no,
you,
go ahead, go ahead.
but one of my favorite quotes you ever said was, "A good life looks like a bad EKG graph." I love that. Like that is so true, and it's something. If I could get a tattoo, I get that tattooed on because yes, that is like the honest truth of this life. Is it like you go through so many periods? I mean, there's so many times where with my own platform, I've been so angry and so frustrated with how it's moving. And then there are other times where I'm like, no, hold on. Like, I like where this is going, you know? Yeah, I like, I like this kind of way, this era I'm going with my channel, you know? And same with my life. There's so many things, so many ways my life has gone. You know, I went to high school in the South, so
Oy.
me being a black man, it's been a very challenging, and I'll spare you the details, but it's been very challenging with my own self worth and why I matter in the world because a lot of the times my self worth and who I am was questioned. I will never forget this one time I went into into my class, and my friend at the time he was like, Josh, what you do is easy. I could do this in my sleep. And I remember being so frustrated and I was like, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm overreacting. And I just remember being like, no, I'm not overreacting. You're downplaying something that means so much to me. I put so much time into my platform. I put so much time into my art. And for you to denigrate that, and for you to call me your friend and to denigrate what I do like that is like, then why are you here? You know?
Well,
And
Josh, I gotta say something. I want to comment on that. It's really because that really got me. When anybody looks from the outside at anybody and then makes some sort of evaluation, and it's beyond judgment, there's a serious evaluation, but it's only informed by their inadequacy. So when they say to you, "Oh, that's easy," it's because they don't have the capacity. They don't know what it feels like. They don't know what it means to be an artist or to generate something. From them, they wish it was that easy. They wish that their life could be that, in their opinion, simple. It isn't. But I will point this out to you: gifted people pay a very different social price than people who are not necessarily gifted. Might be good people, might be smart, but gifted people or intellectually wise people, smart people, there's a very different social price. And so it's very comfortable for people looking in to say, that's, yeah, you got all A's. Yeah. Uh-huh. But when you said being a black man in the South going to school, right there. I mean, that is a rich statement that is loaded because whatever you achieve, you have to work 2 times harder to achieve. And if you're a black woman, you have to work 10 times harder to achieve. So everybody has their challenges, but for anybody ever to look at you and say, "Oh, what you do is easy," the only answer is really, and my first response is "fuck you." My second evolved response is, "Yes, it is. It's a cakewalk." Mhm. That's right. Don't you wish you could be me? Because the truth is, what you pay, the tariff, fuck you, the tariff that you pay, the price tag that you pay to own that space is unimaginable by anybody else but you. They can't fathom it. They're incapable of fathoming it. And so you just have to take the higher road if possible and go, yeah, it is. Anyway, and that's it because they don't know what it cost you. They don't know what your challenges. They can't possibly know. It's so horrible that people do that to each other, but they do. And this is an old fucking story. Everybody has that. I can remember
absolutely.
one of my dear friends. She was beautiful. She was Sybil Shepherd beautiful growing up. And everybody would say to her, "Oh, it must be so easy for you." And in fact, it was just the opposite. because she became so objectified, and it was so difficult for her to navigate from the other side of the spectrum. Now, weirdly, I was this weird artistic freak of a kid in high school, and we were best friends in second grade. And so nobody could understand what Sybil Shepherd was doing with Woody Allen. None of it made sense. But from where we sat, we knew each other's soul. On the same we met in the same spheres and planes. How do you explain that? We were lucky. But I'm going down yet another rabbit hole, and I'm sorry.
No, don't be. I think, the thing about my interviews that I love so much, I've said this multiple times, but this is my version of, I don't know if you've ever heard of this platform, but there's this platform called Drink Champs. And Drink Champs is basically this platform that's dedicated to the amplification and celebration of Black voices in hip hop. And it's
Mm-mm.
such a lovely platform. And I love watching their interviews. And I take great inspiration from that because voice acting means so much to me. So whenever I get the chance or opportunity to speak to you lovely individuals in this field, I don't want you to speak forever. I don't want you to come in those rabbit holes just because you guys have lived so many rich and diverse lives where they could have gone. I mean, like I said in the beginning, you're an Emmy winning voice director, like that is a statement. And I know you say you have this mentality where it's like, it's a job and I go on to the next thing, but man, you are so celebrated and applauded and loved and highly decorated, and you're still working to this day. That's got to speak something to the soul of the artist that you are. And I want to get into that soul. I want to get into that mind so it can inspire me to be a better artist.
I
I'm
will
still
never
learning.
stop working. When I stop breathing, I'll stop working. And as an artist, if you're an artist, that is all that drives me. I need to work. I have to work. I have to put this madness someplace. I have to put my ideas someplace, my energy, my soul needs it. It is how I am hardwired. So if you're an artist and you're not being rewarded and you're not being decorated and you're not being noticed and you're not being given access, which is my thing is I am lucky because I was given access. I grew up with proximity to New York. The theater was right over there. It was an 18-mile hike, and often I hitched or took a bus. And so I had access. What if I had grown up in the Midwest? What if I didn't have that access? What if I didn't have the teachers that I had? What if I didn't have all those possibilities? What would I have done with this existential mess? What would I have done with this? So all I can conclude is the right place at the right time. I'm a lucky motherfucker. And that's all I know. There was no magic wand that put me I don't believe in any of that. All I know is I was lucky. And there are a lot of people who aren't lucky. And so when you say, about being an artist, where do they put it? And then what happens if those people have art souls and have to create and they're working 12-hour shifts and their idea of their creative self disappears? Where does all that go? And then how do they navigate either that reality or does their artistic voice nag them in the middle of the night and say, do something, but they don't have the energy to do it. So, from all of us who are lucky enough to have access, I have nothing to say except thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I can't even theorize how I would have found my way. I like to think all kinds of wonderful, creative, heroic things about myself. And there are some things that I have done that are in that category about certain things that I have survived. But the bottom line is, I had people around me that lifted me. I had people around me that pointed for me. I had access to those things which they showed me, and I found ways to do it. I was broke most of my life, and I found ways to eat, and I found ways to survive. When I got my first gigs, that started to change slightly. And I have to tell you, all I did, and I'm still doing, by the way, because again, EKG, the, the lower points, of which there have been many, I have lived as if I was celebrating something. I always say this, and this sounds so ridiculous. Let's have a party, and I'll make up a reason to have a party, and some it's often just with myself. But when I wake up in the morning, I go, "What do you got? What do you got?" You're either born that way or you're not. I was born with that spirit. That's something that you don't learn. And I've had given my father a lot of reasons to have been crushed out of that spirit. But that spirit's still alive and well, and I'm still a little kid. And sometimes I'll say, after I've done a live performance, I will say it out loud, "You want to get an ice cream cone?" At almost 70 years old. "You want an ice cream cone? Yeah, let's go get an ice cream cone. Come on, let's go. Isn't that ridiculous?
That's funny though. Hey man, I love that you have that spirit though. That's
It's
such a
idiotic.
beautiful thing.
It's idiotic. It's idiotic. And I have no shame about it, which makes it even more idiotic.
I want to touch on this a little because it did speak to me, and then I'll ask my next question. You said working 12 hours. I got to tell you, man, because I used to work in a warehouse for
Me too.
12 hours a day. Oh man, isn't that like
It's brutal.
the worst? That's like so terrible. I remember I used to go into work every day. I used to not get sleep because that spirit that you talk about, I relate to that so heavy because I would wake up early. I'd get off at 3 a.m., take a shower because the warehouse is dirty as hell, all this dust, and gotta take a bath. You don't take a bath, you're an ass. Anyways, I take a bath, go to sleep, and I'd make sure I get to sleep at enough time so I could wake up, at least have 5 hours of sleep, wake up, edit, do graphic design
Mm,
or research for an interview because I know that I'm not going to have that time. I'm
mhm,
working 12 hours, and then when I have the time on the weekends, people want to hang out. I'm tired. I need rest. I need to
mm,
recharge
yeah.
because warehouses are so labor intensive. I'm so glad I'm as unfortunate as it is that I am still looking for a job because I got laid off. I'm glad I'm out of that space because I genuinely did fear, and I'm gonna be so honest to you, I feared that I was going to lose that spirit. I feared that I was going to lose the will to create because I was next to people who are talking about the dumbest thing ever. They're like, "Yo, man, some of the most homophobic." I'm just like, can y'all just work and get your money and go home? Why are we gossiping like children? Just get your money, go home, and shut up. Stop talking about transgender people. Stop talking about people who are in the LGBTI
It's
IQ
such a
plus
bore.
community. It
It's
is.
a
It's like
bore. But that is those are small minds where the worlds are this big. You recognized that and had to fight your way through getting past the small minds. How do I survive at the same time? And we're not just talking about physical surviving, money, rent, food. We're talking about spiritual surviving. Or how do you survive in a world where people are marginalizing you, punish you, making assumptions about you, soul robbing, blah 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 blah. But the bottom line is you knew somehow that you had to create. And sometimes, and I'm not saying this is true all the time, that people do find ways out. I will say to you, and I'm sure there are going to be people who are going to rise up and comment and get pissed off. I'll preface this because there's going to be something to take away the statement followed that's going to follow it. I love Oprah Winfrey, but I really get fucking annoyed when she says anyone can any area the world is your oyster. You just have to want it. You just have to believe it. You
yes,
horse shit.
yep,
Horseshit.
yep.
No, not true. Not true. Wanting something doesn't make it happen. Believing in yourself doesn't make it happen. There's more of a chance that it might happen if you subscribe to those things, but there are realities that some people just cannot overcome, and it's a miracle that she did, and we are forever grateful. The planet is that she did what she has done and what she does. But that's the one thing that pisses me off when people win awards and they say, "I can do it. You can do it. Just believe." No. I mean, that's great. Hope is great. But then there's the real world. So and life doesn't have a lot of awards for people who just get up every day and slosh through it. So I'll go back to me. Oh, I'm getting inducted and they're giving me a wonderful medal of honor for my work. Let's just take 1 second. How fucking lucky am I that anybody gives a shit at all about me or my work, let alone wants to give me pretty, pretty things, let alone wants to elevate me to a status that other people may or may not work hard or not work hard for, or deserve or not deserve. I hate that word deserve. My mother used to say to me, oh, who's gone? Oh, honey, you deserve it. I say, Mom, I can't. I don't deserve shit. Kids deserve to be fed. Women deserve to be safe in their own homes. I, Charlie Adler, do not deserve this award because I have been lucky enough to work at something that people believe I should have. Deserve is not the right word, and entitled ain't the right word. I don't know what the right word is. Luck. I've been so fucking lucky. And that word blessed starts to piss me off too. Oh, I'm so blessed. You know what? Shut up. You're fucking lucky. There are things like culturally now. What's the one that drives me right out of my skull? Oh, I'm giving back. Wait a minute. You're writing a check to the Braille Institute because you're giving back. How many blind people have moved your life into the direction that it is now that you are advantaged enough to do this? Give back? How about just give? How about give with all your heart and shut up about it? I'm giving
It's like
back.
when people record. I don't. This was like a stupid trend a while ago, but someone be like, "Yo, like I'm about to give this homeless guy $10. Here you go." And like I'm just like, bro, can we like not like? Can we just like not do this, please?
So
This is
pretentious. It's so
it's so
pretentious.
it's this is only to satisfy your ego. So
Yeah, yeah.
let's like not do this right now.
Did you think this interview was going to go in this direction? Boy, I'm on fire today.
I love it though. I love it though. Like
I'm
I said,
sorry.
one of my favorite things about your interviews is that passion, that humor, that wit, that charm. All so many great
Mm,
things
thank you.
that I love to talk
I'm not
about
feeling
with
witty
you.
or charming right now, but go ahead.
It's okay. I'm glad I could give you a space to talk about these things. But now I want to talk about your voice direction, and I'm very curious about such a beautiful journey you've had. And of course you could correct me, but you've voice directed about 84 projects, correct?
Something like
That's what
that.
you're. Yeah,
I don't
some.
know. I don't. I have to go to my headboard and see how many notches I have on it. I don't know.
Well, you've had the privilege to voice direct tons of projects, and I'm very curious about the voice directing process. And also, how do you even end up working on these projects? Do you have to like audition to be a
Well,
voice
I have
director?
to
Like, how does that
interview.
work?
Well, for my early career, I started at Klasky Chupo. They just did so many projects that I was successful enough for them that they would just hand me stuff. When I had to leave and expand my horizons, of course, I had to interview for things. But I was known. I was beginning to be known as a director, so people would make inquiries to my agent about me. Then I have to do an interview process, and then I have to sort of explain myself or the way I work, which bores the tits off me, because I don't know how to even begin to describe what I do, except that I love actors, and it is an immediate process and a creative process where they bring a lot to the party. And if the people in the room, which I call the Greek chorus, sitting behind me, shut up long enough to let the actors find their way, chances are it's going to be better than they ever thought. I have to incorporate the intent of the writing. I have to incorporate the visuals of the animation. I have to incorporate the capacity of the actors. I have to incorporate pace, possibilities, different ideas of how a scene can play. That just comes from my being an actor for 150 years. There's so many things that come into play in so many disciplines. And then I direct in shorthand. I don't talk a lot. I just throw things very quickly because most actors can interpret very quickly. Acting is an emotional language. It's not an intellectual language. When somebody in the room goes, in that line, the his favorite color is purple. What the fuck did you just say? What the hell does that have to do with anything? And by the way, in that minute that it took for that person to form that thought, the actor who's flying at 35,000 feet energetically has to slow it down and go to zero and listen to that crap, or be in silence while I'm listening to that crap. And then I have to say, what's your point? And then I'll get another thing sometimes. And then I have to get the actor back up energetically. So for me, it's about keeping life moving, joy moving, creativity moving, and not being molested emotionally during something that other disciplines don't completely understand. And hopefully they come to get that happens. That's happened to me on a lot of shows. For the most part, not always, for the most part, I am successful in getting those people to understand and get on board, and be more respectful of what the actors are experiencing, because that's the part of the process that we're doing at that time. You work your shit out before we get into the room. Let's
That's the
see
number
what
one thing
happens.
I hear from a lot of voice directors. Like, you know, of course the real life is real life, but in here, you have to be focused, you have to be ready to deliver these lines, and it makes a lot of sense. And that's something I think that when I was beginning to perform, I was using a lot of what was going on in my real life for these performances. But the issue with that was I wasn't focused. I was too big. The character was angry, and I'm angry in real life, and it's distracting me. It's like throwing me off my point. So I had to learn very early on to leave that stuff aside and just be the character. It's I like how focus based performing is a lot of the times. Like
Well,
it
I think
gives you.
also it depends on the discipline that you came from. So, for instance, you as an actor were in a particular space in your life where everything that you did was informed by your anger, if I'm understanding what you said correctly. And so
Yeah.
that was channeling through you, and you were using acting as a way in which to exorcise those demons or to get those off you, as opposed to if you had an acting background and you understood certain elements of how to apply yourself in different situations, and you had enough tools where you could leave that behind, it might have had a different outcome for you. You might have had a joyful experience, which is just as healing as continually relitigating anger. So, for instance, going back to something that you just said, I went through horrible, 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 horrible chapters in my life, and acting was my salvation. So, a lot of what the a lot of the passion of the characters that I've gotten, or the madness, was a wonderful, joyful way for me to apply not my anger, but my need to leave myself, and to
Mm.
channel out some of that. Otherwise, I don't know where I would have been. And we're not just talking about that. I'm talking about in the theater. I'm talking about other elements. But in animation, what a great opportunity for me to let some of the demons out, but appropriately so. So I was not living in this state of which I was in 24/7, except when I was working, the emotional distress that I was in for several years. I found ways to navigate that artistically, and I'm so grateful that I had those ways out,
Those
away from
outlets.
myself. So
Mhm.
acting can be a great departure from oneself, and at the same time heal oneself. It's a great healer. It really is.
Absolutely. You mentioned a name earlier that I want to go back and stay there for a little bit because you talked so highly about working there. But Klasky Chupo was a very popular animation studio, and you've spoken so highly about how pro artist that studio was for a lot of you guys. So I'm very curious, because of course Klasky Chupo is no more, unfortunately. How would you say your time working with Klasky Chupo has set you up for all the creative things you've done since then?
Well, they gave me my break as a director for sure. And with that break also came a lot of challenges for several reasons. I was only known as an actor, so there were two opposing forces. One was the because it was so artist driven, the artists, and I'm putting this aside, I was brought in because things were not working. Because the artists were only living in one discipline and not understanding performance. And so the sessions were very staccato and very anal and very dull and very uh, not actor language at all. I had actor language. But because of that, I butted heads with animation directors my first couple of years like you could not believe, with the permission and the encouragement and the consent of both Gabor Chupo and Arlene Klasky. And so I was empowered, luckily, by them to keep lifting the performances and to get the animation directors to leave enough space where their egos were not so threatened by a different discipline. And they had to start to adjust to my language and my way of communicating and my way of getting the performances to lift. So that was one challenge. The other challenge, there were actors who were saying, I don't want him to direct me. I want to be the director. And they would behind my back go to Arlene and Gabor and the people and say, I can do a better job than
No.
him. I want this. Why don't you give me a chance? So, and by the way, these were not huge forces, but they were challenges that over time I had to re-navigate. I had to continually find ways to honor the animators. To the writers had no problem. Well, there was one who was a pain in the ass, but there were there was one writer who would pace behind me and she would give line readings where I finally just had to say, "Will you just shut the fuck up and let me do my job? Sit down, stop it." Because she had been a performer, so she was acting behind me the whole time, and here are the actors in front of me going, "There's that, but so what? So what?" But yes, but to answer to your question, it was a very fertile ground for me. I really got my sea legs and I started to understand how to navigate things differently. I'm a very fiery person, as you may have noticed, so I wasn't exactly a cakewalk for those people either. I was not being diplomatic. I was just saying, shut up. Not such a great skill. I didn't have a lot of nuance and finesse, which I am so enriched by now.
Man, I well, like you said, I'm so happy that you've gotten these opportunities. Would you say directing comes naturally to you? Has it always come naturally, or has that been like something you've like
Well, I directed
worked
plays
on?
in high school. I guess it does in a way. I guess it did in a way. And I'll tell you that from working with some really shitty directors in my career in the theater and on into animation, it's a very good thing to learn how to be self-sufficient and to find your way and to look at the bigger picture. As an actor, we tend to look at the smaller uh, me. Where do I fit in? But uh, I had to expand my idea of things because as a director, I have to look at the whole thing. But I realized as an actor, being badly directed, I had to stop focusing on just my part. I had to understand the entire play, for instance. I had to understand other ideas and other goals. Each character has a different perspective, a different goal. And so it got me to think a little more broadly about, which I guess is a directorial viewpoint. So over time, that muscle just got evolved and stronger. And so, uh, whether it's natural or not, it's here now. And but I have to say that as an actor, I love being directed when someone's good. I love being challenged. I love being in an environment where I feel I can trust myself with the director. What's happened now is I'm just like a jukebox now. You just put a quarter in and I shit out a performance, I guess. But I think that when I'm working with somebody that I don't like or isn't a very good director, I have evolved into the idea that, well, what if that direction isn't great? Do it anyway. I mean, see what happens. Maybe there's something that you can, maybe I can make this work, or I read between the lines. So, in a way, it's working with not people that I've not been crazy about. It's helped me. It's expanded me because you have to survive those events and you have to be good at that. And you can't be as combative as I have been at different times in my life.
Yeah, got to
So
be
now
really.
it's like, well, the old man, just shut up. Let me, and I'll say to myself, Charlie, shut up, shut up. Let's just see where this goes. It's okay. You're not going to die if you say it that way. And that's a good day. On a bad day, I'll go, do you really want me to say it that badly? Or I'll go, give me a reading. And they do. And I go, you really want me to stink that bad? So it depends on the day.
I got you. Well, I want to talk about this is a huge, like I said, huge cartoon from my childhood, The Marvelous Adventures of Flapjack. I'm curious because I know you've talked about your memory when it comes to your career. What do you remember about doing that project or just your overall experience with The
Well,
Marvelous
I
Misadventures
remember
of
I hated
Flapjack?
it and I hated the people around it. I loved my actors. I adored my actors. I was a great bafflement to the people who created it, and they actually fired me after 26 episodes.
Wait,
Yeah. Oh, that's fine.
what?
I couldn't get there fast enough, get away from them fast enough. They were very arrogant, very rude. And one day they said to me, we overheard you saying that you didn't like Napoleon Dynamite. So if you didn't like that, you can't understand us. And it was just okay then, bye bye. But I loved my actors. Jeff Bennett, Brian Doyle Murray, Roz Ryan. I mean, we had a blast in spite of these people. But no, it was not a good experience for me. And if you hear them say otherwise, they're lying. They didn't like me. I didn't like them. The show was still great, but the 26 episodes that I directed still were gangbusters. There was something in there. It was a lovely show for people to watch from an audience standpoint. It was wonderful. It was marvelous misadventures, but for me, it was a pain in my ass. Yeah, like
I
that.
didn't even know you got fired. I thought you did the whole
Mhm.
show.
Yeah, they replaced me. That's fine. I mean, it was a bad fit. It was just a bad fit. They wanted to direct themselves and star themselves and reinvent the wheel, and my actors knew what was going on, and it was fine. It was fine. It touched me not because by the my gauges when I go to work, I have to be very very happy. I noticed that I was like this when I woke up.
No. Oh no, dang.
But but that you asked, I was not. I could easily say, "Oh, it was wonderful. Oh, it was a laugh a minute." It was not for me, not for me. No.
Like I appreciate that answer because I do that's wow, that's the stuff you never would have guessed or known if you
No,
didn't
and by the way,
ask.
that's not what a good show does. The audience should not know this. Now, who gives a shit? But then, well, you gave a shit enough to ask the question, so I apologize for saying that. But
Oh no,
but
you're
but
good.
I don't want to rob you of your memories of a wonderful show. But you asked me how it was the experience for me. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Uh-uh.
Well, let's talk about a show that was a great fit for you, Rugrats.
I
This is
know.
another I love Rugrats and my question about for you is, Rugrats is so beloved by so many people. I see people still wearing Rugrats t-shirts to this very day.
I
It's so
know.
popular, it's so beloved, and it's so amazing to see. So I'm curious, what about Rugrats resonated the most with you? And also I wanted to add with this because I know Rugrats did return. Did you have any concerns when you found out it was returning? Because I know sometimes when shows return under new management or something, sometimes people could
Hmm.
play in the pot too much. And I'll give you an example. I'm a huge fan of the Daredevil Netflix show, and it recently came back for Disney Plus. So it's under new management and stuff. And there's a very much a difference in quality between both shows. talk about this later on my channel, but sometimes when shows come back, that grit a little bit is lost because there's something maybe new management doesn't understand or
Mm.
anything. So were you ever concerned at all with the
No,
return?
no, I'll tell you why. Because Eric Casimiro and Kate Boudelier was one of the original writers on the original Rugrats. Eric was the senior VP of creative at Klasky Csupo. The reinvention was theirs. And so they were very much in control of the creative elements of it. And it was definitely a reboot. It was definitely modernized. It was definitely brought into the whatever century this is. And it was a joy to direct. It was a different visual, which was stunning and gorgeous. The models, the Dave Pressler, Casey Leonard, uh, they did such beautiful work. It was gorgeous. Mark Mothersbaugh redid the theme music, which was extraordinary. We had some of the original cast. We did recast many characters, but we had people like Henry Winkler and Swoosie Kurtz and Michael McKean and Tata Vega, and we just had such a thrilling bunch of people. Nancy Cartwright, of course, took over for the heavenly Christine Cavanaugh, my angel on the earth, who was the original Chucky. We had Kath Soucie, and we had Cheryl Chase, and E.G. Daly, and Cree Summer, and it was gangbusters. It took a shit because it was on Paramount Plus. Who watched that? And so and then it was on Peacock, I think. Well, the three people watched that stuff. Anyway, it we just finished our third season. We just had a wrap party 2 weeks ago, and I still have great hope and faith that it's going to air because it was gorgeous. They took so many elements and modernized them and brought us deeper. What I loved about the original series was that they did tackle so many social issues in a way that no other show did. And that was so courageous, and it was beautiful and very daring, and that many in those ways. They did not lose that courage in the continuation of that. So, for instance, in this iteration, Betty, who has now been artificially inseminated by Howard, and she's gay, and so we meet her girlfriend.
I remember hearing
And so
about that. Yeah.
I mean, that's just one of many different ideas, but that was, in my opinion, such a interesting and great choice because, yes, it explained so many things, and they were willing to make that decision. They were willing to make that choice. And there are so many social issues that they tackled, and that was Eric, and that was Kate and Rachel Lippman, brilliant writers. Um, so I think it lifted. I think it honored everything, and it brought it into a different light beautifully. I'm very proud to be part of that. Very, very proud to be part of that, as I was the first one.
I'm so happy to hear that, man. I'm very glad that you have that confidence in such a. Okay. Sorry, your screen was glitching for a little bit. I
Oh
just
no,
want to make sure
I
you're
went,
good.
I went like this. I felt like Norman Desmond on the soundstage.
No, but I'm so that makes my heart really happy. I love when creatives are very proud of their projects,
Oh.
because sometimes there are those horror stories, and sometimes
Oh,
people are
you
like, oh,
mean the one I just told?
just talked
Yeah.
about.
Well, I have to say those are few and far between. For the most part, I am nothing but proud of everything I've done, with very few exceptions. But the minor exceptions, I got to tell you, they crawl up your ass when they happen. And nobody likes being, going. I was not gleeful about telling you that. I've just decided that I have no interest in, going. Oh, I was lovely.
I
That
I
wasn't. That's
I
great.
love I love interviewing, vets such as yourself, because you guys are at a point in your career, you're like, you know what? I'm not gonna lie anymore. I hated this, and this, and I'm like, yes, tell me. I'm so interested. I'm so that's so interesting.
Well, my
You know,
problem is I've been that way for 40 years, 50 years. So it's not like it's just new to me. Now I have white hair, it's more acceptable. But when I had brown hair and eyelids, it was shocking. That arrogant, angry young man.
oh my gosh. Well, you were speaking about being proud, and I know this show is something you're extremely proud of, Cow and Chicken.
Hmm.
Man,
Hmm.
Cow and Chicken is like, it's so funny. I remember I told my mom who I was interviewing, and I was like, I'm interviewing the voice behind Cow and Chicken, and she just like lit up. Also, Buster
Oh,
Bunny, she loves Buster Bunny. She
oh,
she has she has, I don't know if you ever saw the figures, but there used to be like figures of Buster and Babs in like these go-karts, and they were together, and she has the original
maybe. Was that
ones.
like part of a McDonald's giveaway or something?
I think it was actually. I
Maybe I
think
think
it was.
that's ringing the
Yeah.
bell. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. She has the original
Oh,
one in
well,
her room.
tell her hi for me. Send her my best, please.
Absolutely, especially now, we sorry to derail for just a second, but we just went through a terrible car crash. She was the if I showed you a picture, the car crash was so bad, the entire front of the car caved in. It is I remember I saw that, and I was in an Uber. I said, "Stop the car right now!" And I ran out and I rushed to her. And it's been an adjustment period, and I'm doing
Is
what I
she all
can.
right?
For
Is she all
sh-
right?
she's a lot of mental, emotional scarring,
That
but for
could
the
scar
most
you.
part, she's being a trooper,
It can make you
and
very scared to get behind a wheel again, for sure, for sure. But please tell her
absolutely,
from me, lightning only strikes once. And
absolutely. Because for me, I got into, gosh, I don't know what it is about Georgia and their drivers, but I got in a car crash too, and it's just like both of us are dealing with that together. But I'm glad I'm here with her, so we
I'm
could like
glad she's
express those
okay.
emotions together.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tell her
it's
not to
it,
play lotto. She already survived one.
absolutely, yeah,
She
absolutely,
won. She won. She doesn't feel like she won, but she won the lottery because she's
absolutely.
okay. What could have happened to her? I mean, from what you described, that's pretty miraculous. So the fact that she is with us and mostly intact is she won the lottery.
100%, my good sir. But I wanted to talk about Count Chicken because this was so funny to me. So I was looking at Ben 10 Omniverse, and I noticed that Cow and Chicken were in Ben 10 Omniverse, and you also voice directed the show. So I was curious, were you aware of that gag? It looks like you don't remember that, so I'm
Did I direct that too?
Yeah, you do. You voice directed 2 episodes of the show.
Live and learn.
Oh man, nah, that's all fine. But because I just thought it was so funny. I was like, did he know that this is like happening right
Not only did
now?
he not know, he doesn't even remember not knowing or knowing.
But
Eek.
I love, you talk about some in high regard of Dave Feast. Did I say that right? David
Mm,
Feast.
David
You talk,
Feast.
yeah, you talk so highly about
I
him. So I'm
adore him.
curious.
I adore him.
I mean, you don't become an ordained minister for just anyone, you
You
know.
ain't kidding. What the hell was that shit?
But what about the writing for Cow and Chicken stuck with you the most? And how have those characters changed for you as you've gotten older and been able to, look back on that series?
Nothing's changed for me in that I think the writing was so hilarious. They were so daring and they were so irreverent and they were so subversive and they were so smart. And I would come in. I mean, I'll just give you an example. I came in one day, and the way we recorded, we never rehearsed. We just would go right to record. So all I would
Uh-huh.
do, we would get to our scripts, and we would just with a yellow highlighter mark our parts, and then whatever, and then we'd go. We start recording, and so it was all cold reads. We didn't know where anything was going to go, which I loved. I mean, that was part of the excitement of it all. But as I'm going, I see asswipe. And I said, David, what the fuck is asswipe? What do you're not going to get it. You've gotten away with a lot of shit, but asswipe? He said, it's us we pay. I said, what? He said, it's the us we pay tribe. So we took asswipe and made it us we pay. And so that's how silly and goofy and irreverent and subversive they were. And every day was an adventure, and every show was funnier than the next. And it was just joy because nobody was hogtied. Everybody was so honored. There was no I never felt, and maybe David did, but I particularly never felt any pressure from the studio to do or not to do. What I did feel is their resentment when I asked for more money to play three leads, and of course that was, "How dare you, sir? We don't
Always the
network." You know,
case.
my feeling was, "Hold the fucking bake sale. Shut up." Um, it's they're so tedious with that kind of stuff, and but that aside, so what? It was artistically bliss. And the cast, we just made each other laugh until we cried. And then, you know, our babu I Am Weasel with Michael Dorn. Michael Dorn and I would laugh until we cried. And one day, one, I think it was maybe by the second or third episode, he tells this. So I'm not talking at a school. I looked at him one day in the middle of the session, and he was being very Michael Dorn. And I looked at him, I said, "Who the fuck are you, Olivia de Havilland? Lighten up." And so to this day, we call each other Olivia and Joan. And Joan Fontaine and Olivia de Havilland, they were sisters. And he just he would laugh about that because I was saying, "You're being really formal here. Play with me." I you know, and he did. And then he kept raising my game. He gave me so much to dance with. Everybody in that show gave every the we would just it was a feeding frenzy. And I was given such free reign, and it was just joyful for me. I had an absolute blast. Just so you know, I have about 15 minutes left on me.
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry to do that to you, but I got a gig
No,
actually.
no, no. I completely understand. I'm just so happy that I've gotten the amount of time I have with you. I know you're a very busy man, so
No,
thank
no,
you.
but I just wanna give you the heads up so we don't just cut off.
Yes,
Otherwise, we'll just,
absolutely.
"Okay, bye."
Yes, I'll ask about three more questions, and hopefully, I can bring you on again sometime if you're interested.
It's
Uh,
gonna be a while from now, but sure.
got you. Well, I'm curious. I want to talk about Marvel real quick, because you've done a lot of stuff in the Marvel universe. So I'm curious. Were you into comic books growing up?
Mad Magazine.
Ah,
I obsessed on Mad Magazine. No comic books. Didn't give a shit. Didn't watch cartoons. None of that. None of it.
understandable. What do you remember about the audition? Because I want to talk about Superhero Squad. What do you remember about the audition for Doctor Doom? And have
Doctor
you
Doom.
ever met Stan Lee?
Yes. I love Stan. Two quick Stan Lee stories. We were at Comic-Con, we were doing a panel, I think it was for what was this show?
Superhero Squad show.
And, he couldn't make the rehearsal. And so Comic-Con, there was like 5,000 people in this huge space, and, you know, Stan Lee, and who gave a shit about us? And, the stage was here, and then there was this curtained off sort of thing where you could come from the hallway and be hidden from the audience, and we make an entrance. And they were starting to announce us. And so I already knew Stan. So his handlers all kind of were walking very slowly and getting Stan in. And me, because I was the first one on, said, "Stan, fuck, let's go." And I grabbed him, and he was great. And he said, "What am I doing?" I said whatever the hell I said to him. And we got up there. It was fine. It was fine. He was lovely. He was a trooper. He was a riot. He did a guest on Superhero Squad, and he told us stories that when he was an artist, they had him do a VD campaign for venereal disease, and the slogan was "VD, not me," and it was a soldier doing that, which I loved. So I loved working with Stan. My audition was I didn't know. I'm such an idiot. This is so typical of me. I didn't know that the show was a comedy. I thought Doctor Doom. I thought it was serious, and so when I read the audition material, I thought it was serious metal. He was from, from some Slavic country, and he was very dark, and blah 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 blah. And I did the whole piece like this, and I sent it off. I didn't give it another thought, and then I get a call back, and I go, "Oh, all right, good." So I go in. It's a director I really love, Jamie Simone, sweet, sweet, sweet man, and I get in there, and Jamie says to me, "Oh, by the way, uh, don't do the accent, and this is a comedy." What? Oh, so I said, "Well, then why didn't you write it funny? Where's the funny?" I don't get it. The hell's funny about this? So we all had a laugh about that. So I did it. And the character that I ended up doing just emerged from that minute when he said, "This is funny, make it funny." I thought, "Well, Jesus Christ, Ann Miller tap dance." I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I did, and they were stupid enough to hire me. So I did it. It was wonderful. We had a lot of fun. It was a fun show. I mean, we laughed a lot. That was such a rowdy room. I mean,
I mean,
we
y'all had an insane cast as
oh,
well. Tom Kenny, Steve Bloom, Travis Willingham, tons. I mean, list goes on and on and on of all the
and we
talent y'all had in there.
and I think it was the first Anthony Del Rio. It was his first show. I know this because he's my birthday twin, and he's in Rugrats, and he was brilliant in this new iteration. He's amazing in it. He was 18. He just turned 18. The little shit, and I loved every single person on the show. We would just we would make each other cry, cry, cry. Oh shit! I just went up on names. Please forgive me. What a moron. Alan Ballard, hilarious. I mean, everybody was wonderful. I love that, and the people on the other side of the glass were so warm and wonderful and playful, and let us get away with murder. And I'm so crabby when I don't understand something. So I think I had a line in that something about Kirby Crackle, and I got to the line and I stopped and I said, "What the fuck is Kirby Crackle?" And the room turned on me. Literally, it was like Donald Sutherland in the Body Snatchers, where he walked into church and they all went. I swear, the room just turned on me. You don't know what Candy Crackle is? I don't know what the no, I don't. What is it? And I got more and more agitated because instead of telling me what it was, they were all spending 5 minutes in their disbelief that somebody didn't know what that was. Well, I don't know if you know what it is, but it's apparently Kirby was the artist, and then
Jack Kirby,
yes,
yes.
and it was some technique called the Kirby crackle. Well, okay, I'm an asshole. I don't get it, but they were so pissed at me that I didn't. You don't know the Kirby crackle was really fuck. What do you want from me? So by the time I got the answer, I was so annoyed that they were so annoyed. It was playful annoyance. It just escalated into madness. But that was one of those sessions where I went, "What? What? Shoot me," because in truth, I don't know half of the world. I was so busy working for real, and surviving. I didn't I didn't dance in those arenas. So my cultural awareness is kind of dopey. And I've missed a lot of chapters in life because I've lived very heavily in chapters in life where I didn't really engage. I didn't know a lot of artists. I didn't know a lot of singers. I was too busy surviving. That's a whole other chapter. But the point is, I did miss a lot of things, and it makes me laugh now because I'm just a dodo. I mean, that's case in point. Why didn't I know that? Well, because I didn't have the same experiences that they did, but I didn't, and I'm still not sure I know what Kirby Crackle is. I did my best.
I want to transition into Transformers now, and with you as Starscream, and this role we'll end it off here because you know Starscream is one of my favorite characters of all time, and really fun stuff you did there. But I'm curious about the recording process for Transformers, because I know some actors talked about they got to see the actual design for the character and got to record with it, and some say they didn't. So I'm curious. Did you get to see Starscream when you did the lines, or was Michael Bay like, okay,
Oh, Michael was wonderful, and he was so collaborative, and I didn't expect that. By the way, I heard to the contrary. Uh, he was absolutely wonderful, and he was playful, and it was like hanging out with a goofy buddy. He was so immediate and very open to improv ideas. And but what the process for me was, and I think it was for most of the actors in the pictures. I did 3 pictures. Don't ask me what the hell they were. And I got onto the stage and there was a giant movie screen in front of me and they would play the footage. So in essence, it was an ADR job, automatic dialogue replacement, where the dialogue I had to fit my voice to what I'm looking at, to what they have already animated. The animation, and by the way, because I'm still on my toaster, I didn't even know what a terabyte is. It terabyte or tetrabyte?
Terabyte.
Okay, so there were like a gajillion terabytes, and so the detail when I saw it, I was awestruck, and it wasn't even completely done. But if I would focus in on one particular part of an arm or a leg, you'd see a gajillion detail. It was these people were extraordinary who brought this to life, and it wasn't completely done, but it was done enough for me to go, "Holy shit, this is something." So uh, they hired me based on my audition. So the voice that I did is what I did at the audition, and it was very exciting for me because I think I came back a couple of times for each picture, and it was always exciting. We mostly did it at one recording studio. Then Michael Bay has his own studios, which I loved going to mostly because he had two huge Rhodesian Ridgeback dogs who I was crazy about. So that was always exciting for me because I liked the dogs. And even though they were pretending to be guard dogs, they weren't. They were pussies. And I loved them. And I think people were a little nervous that, I would get down on the floor and get, they're pretty big and get my face there. They were so sweet. But what, so the recording for some of it was on that huge stage. The recording for other parts of it, as they were finishing and they couldn't get that stage, was at Michael's studio, where literally I was looking at a computer screen in a quiet room and doing some of my lines to that, either to repair that, or to improve it, or to augment what hadn't been done. It was a great experience. I loved it. It surprised me how much I loved it. I mean, I invest in everything 10,000%, but there was something about that gig, the scope of it, because when I looked at some of the footage and they had mixed obviously the live action with that, I was captivated with how they were able to pull that off. And so I asked a lot of questions. None of the By the way, the answers, I didn't understand one fucking word. I asked in English and I heard Russian. I have no idea what they answered, but still I was going, because it was just thrilling to hear somebody articulate what they did. I didn't understand a word of it. To this minute, but the finished product was stunning, really wonderful, and it was a thrill playing it. I'm doing a convention in 2 days.
TFCon,
Yeah,
yes.
TFCon. It's my first con in like 7 years or 8 years, so I'm kind of excited to see some of my buddies and to be there. We'll see. I mean,
Uh,
3 people come up and say hi, and I'll go hi, and they'll send me home in an ambulance. I don't know. Will you send a car for me?
well, Mr. Adler, I do know you have to
I
dip
do.
off
I
here
do.
soon, and wow, just thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. Thank you for being so generous. Thank you for so much that you've given to the
Oh,
world.
thank you.
Thank you. I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity. Seriously, there's not a lot of opportunities like
Thank
this that come into my life. So thank you for this. Truly, it's been an honor. And guys, this
Thank
has
you.
been the incredible Charlie Adler. Give it up for him, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Something like that. People do that. I can't. I have no idea what I just did. It sounds like I had phlegm. I tried to do the sound of a big audience. Yeah, that and a subway token will get you someplace, Chuck.
Crying.
Thank
Well,
you, man. I wish you all
thank
good
you.
things. Thank you so much.
I wish you the same. Thank you.
Thank